I get the privilege of being here today with my friend, Mr. Mike Mathis. I've been looking forward to this one, big time. The word that I've chosen to sync with this podcast, Mike, is the word legacy. When I think of that word, I think of a deep inward commitment that someone's extremely aware of what they're trying to do, their mark on planet Earth. This is what I'm trying to do, and it's a deep, long-term commitment toward that end. And quite honestly, when I think of that word, immediately you are the one that comes to mind. And interesting, at least I feel, and let's just say it up front, I have found that sometimes, and more often than I have really been aware of until I started really diving into this podcast with people, more often than I've ever realized, adversity is what has framed somebody's calling. It's because of an adversity that they've set their sights on making a difference and in a big way. Well, I've known that of you as long as I've known you. I've seen you dealing with and creating amazing returns from the adversity you've dealt with. So legacy, you've left an amazing legacy, and we're going to tell the story of that legacy today. But I want you to start by taking me back to life as a kid, like before this accident. We have a picture of you as a young, I don't know, 12-year-old about?
11-year-old.
11-year-old,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. Before this accident, and tell me about that life. What did life look like for you then? You were a great, normal, athletic kid. Tell me about it.
Yeah, I mean, 1967. Actually, let's go back one more year.
Yeah.
1966. I was a 10-year-old boy.
Yeah.
I had just won an All-Star award for catching out of Little League.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty cocky kid. Had an older brother who was a bully. I had a tough dad who was an athlete too, a great fast-pitch softball player, a loving, devoted mother, 2 sisters, very loving. We had a great family. Mm-hmm. It was very wonderful, fairly normal. Get morning, have breakfast, and go to school, just ride our bikes and just have fun.
Right.
Just a normal kid.
Yeah.
Leading up to what's happened to me in 1967 was, it was February 18th, 1967. And my mom and dad wanted to have some friends over, so they asked us, our kid, my brother and sisters, to go and ask their friends to come spend the night. So I called my friend Sam, said, Sam, hey, Mom and Dad said, get out of the house, so can we come to your house? And he said, yeah, sure. And so we went over there. It's February 18th. It's pretty cold out.
Right.
And so it turned out that Sam's mom wanted to be alone with her boyfriend. And so they asked us, would we like to go camping outside? February 18th, it's like 30 degrees outside. We didn't care. We're 11-year-old boys. Heck yeah.
Right.
So we went and set the tent up. The boyfriend came out and put wood on the fire, poured gasoline on it, ignited, blew up. Kind of, we heard that noise that growing up, that.
Right.
The boys, that did scare me. We thought it was kind of cool. And he went inside with his mom, and we started playing with fire, just like the normal boys would do, burning sticks and melting plastic, and that's what boys do, right?
Right.
And it was really late. It was about 11:30, and we decided we better get to bed. In fact, I think the boyfriend actually yelled out, "Go to bed!" Mm-hmm. So we crawled in the tent. We started wrestling like boys do. It was Sam and his brother and me, and we rolled over and we knocked one side of the tent down. The tent fell, and so we crawled out of the tent, and I was trying to pull the stake and the cord down to bring the tent back up, but it was really dark out and I couldn't see. So he said, Sam, bring a flashlight. He goes, okay. So I was just waiting there with the cord in my hand, and all I remember is hearing the ignition of gas again, and then screaming. So I ran around the side of the tent, and there was Sam, fully engulfed in flames. I was 11 years old. And thank God my Boy Scout lessons taught me to stop, drop, and roll about a month before that. And so I immediately started running towards him because he was running. He was gone. He was fully in flames. Scary stuff, I tell you. And as I started running, I turned and looked at that fire and seen that can, and the fire was growing bigger. And I noticed that till this day, this is 50, almost 60 years ago, and it was almost like yesterday. I remember looking at that can and seeing that gasoline flowing freely onto the ground, and it's getting bigger and bigger. Finally, the can emptied enough where it vaporized. Boom. All I remember is just as I'm running towards Sam is I'm looking, and all of a sudden, boom, white flash. I'm on the ground. I'm looking up. I'm wondering what happened. I thought I didn't realize I was on fire. I just thought I was laying in fire. So I made the major mistake. I got up and ran, and the boyfriend ran and tackled me with a blanket, threw me on the ditch, and I sat there in that ditch. I was in shock. I wasn't scared. It wasn't no pain, but I was severely burned. Didn't know at the time. But as I was laying there, I could hear the sirens come, but they were really far away. This was like a half an hour later, and I'd been sitting there freezing, and I noticed something in front of my eyes. I couldn't understand what was going on, but what was happening was the skin from my forehead was melting off into my face. My whole face was just kind of falling off, and my arm, 11 years old, you're laying in a ditch, you're wondering, what the hell's going on? You know, I thought I was in a nightmare. Obviously it was a nightmare, but I just thought I was dreaming. And I remember looking at the boyfriend saying, what happened to me? He got burned. The fire department's coming. Be careful. Just relax. So I lay there and just watched this arm go into like a water balloon. I'm shaking my arm, and it's shaking like a water balloon, Greg. And it doesn't make sense to me. It's just wondering. It's the weirdest dream, Finally, the fire department showed up and put me in the ambulance. That's the last time I remember until about probably maybe a week later or so. I remember waking up and fog. Didn't really understand and I couldn't see. I was blind. The flash from the fire had damaged my eyes because I was running, and when the flash hit, it damaged my eyes, so I couldn't see. And I didn't know what was going on. Here I was severely burned, but I really couldn't understand what happened to me. People kept telling me, you're burned, but when you're in shock like that, you just can't comprehend what happened to you. But there's a recovery process. Took about 3 months. It was 2 or 3 times a day. They come in, cut your bandages off, and scrape all your sores to get the scabs off, so they don't infect. Very painful, screaming, bloody murder. My mom said she could hear me 2 floors down screaming. Very painful process to try to go through that. But I hadn't seen myself yet. I was blind. Doctor told me I probably would never see again. So I'm laying there, and I just didn't understand what happened, because you can't see either, right? And so, about a month into my recovery, now I left 3 months after I recovered, but a month into my recovery, I'm laying there, and this is the weirdest thing, Greg. It's midnight or so. It's after midnight. I know it's late because no one's making noise. There's no noises in the hallways and stuff, so I know it's late. And I just started praying, I get up all show with this because I actually believe that this is where I entered a different phase of my life, a phase of belief and worship and believing in something bigger than I am. And what happened was I was praying. I wanted my eyesight back. And I remember feeling a warmth in my toes. I couldn't understand what I was feeling. Now, in retrospect, it turned out that in my mind, I believe it was God, Jesus, grabbed my feet. And I felt the warmth going up my legs and coming into my soul, powerful. And all of a sudden, light. Yeah, light. Before it was light, but it was just dark blur. But I actually could see something. And I'm like, oh my God. I pushed the button for the nurse. Said, nurse, I see light. And she grabbed my hand and we cried together. I remember crying with her and praying and believing that God did this for me. But it turned out a lot of people felt that was a blessing for me, that I couldn't see myself. So this is the next phase of my recovery, was seeing myself for the first time. A week later, my eyesight got better. A couple weeks later, it got better and better. And I remember they brought my meal in. You put a tray down on your bed, and you grab that lid with the little hole in the middle of it and put it on. And I was rushed around. I knocked my plate on the floor. Pushed the button. Sorry, nurse. Really sorry I did this. So they brought another one, a chrome one. Now, you all know a chrome has a reflection. And I didn't even think about it, but I remember going like this and kind of just going and seeing my face, because I had taken mirrors out of my room. I had no way to even get a reflection at all. And I looked at that, and it was bad. It was bad. Didn't quite know how I was going to deal with that, because all I seen was a monster. I seen this melted flesh, eyes pulled down, lips pulled down. My chin was on my chest, and my ear was melted off, and I didn't even know this stuff. And my hands are all bad, just 'cause you can't really feel, what appendages you have left, right? And I'm laying there, and I set it down there, and that's what. And I waited a couple seconds. I had to look. I had to look again and pick it up again. And just, oh my God, who's gonna love me? It was. I didn't know if my parents would love me. I couldn't figure out who would love this, right? And so I put the lid off the side. And then the nurse left, and I kind of fell back in this little denial world in which I was living already. And I guess that saved me. Denial is a tough thing to have. It's a good tool and a bad tool at the same time. Good tool in which keeps you away from your trauma, and bad tool is it forces you not to face it and deal with it.
Right.
And so that was my demon in front of me. I had to decide, am I going to accept what I see, and how am I going to move forward? Doctor tells me I'm not going to be able to see very well. My fingers are messed up. How am I going to play baseball? I mean, I was a baseball player, right? And now I'm a melted piece of flesh with no ability, I thought. But I didn't realize at the time that the ability lies inside your brain more than your actual fingers and hands and legs that you use. Because the ability of life and what you as a little 11-year-old boy, you don't have these skills, of course. But it was a change in my life, big change in my life. So 3 months went by, and they're getting ready to get me out of the hospital. I'm used to people that know me coming in, the nurses, and they walk in with their smiles, and my parents walk in their smiles, my brothers and sisters walk in with their smiles, and so I'm used to this facial, hi Michael, just normalization kind of thing, not realizing that when I walk outside that door, the world's going to react to me. So I'm coming out of the elevator, and the door opens, and people are walking out, and they're dropping their jaws. And I wasn't prepared. And I kept wondering why they're doing it, because I was living in denial, right? I was just this little 11-year-old boy that I just wanted to go home. I just wanted to get away from this pain area and go home. And all of a sudden, the door is open. I'm walking, and there's people walking by me. They're shocked, and so my mom sticks me in her coat, thinks she's protecting me. And I felt really protected when I went in there. And so they got me to the car. I went home, and got home, and my best friend heard that I got home, and he wanted to come see me, Daryl. And so he shows up to the door, and I was, as soon as they said he's coming over, I ran my bedroom. I didn't want to deal with this. I didn't, and so I remember him outside the door saying, Daryl was saying, "Come on, Michael, come on out. I'm your best friend, right?" And so I walk out, and he looks, and he was shocked, and he didn't know what to think. He didn't know what to do. He's an 11-year-old boy too, right? He don't have any skills, so he just says, and got all nervous. He goes, "Well, I just wanted to come say hi, and I hope you get better." And he left like that. Probably less than a minute. My best friend, who hopefully would have been the first person that would help me get past that. But there was a blessing that came because he brought another boy with him. That his name was Brad, and Brad didn't leave. He stayed there outside my door and told me he's not going to leave. He goes, "I don't care what you look like." 11-year-old boy. Can you believe that?
Did you know Brad before?
I didn't know him at all.
He was a total stranger to you.
And, you think, where the heck does this 11-year-old boy develop skills like this?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so he left. He sat there outside my door. We talked for a good half an hour about school and what's happened to school since I've left and everything like that. And he left and came back the next day and just kept coming back. And so he was my a friend of someone who didn't care what I looked like. But that wasn't the real world, though. Yeah, I had to try to decide how am I gonna walk out that door every day and deal with this? How am I gonna do that? When I woke up in the morning, as soon as you gain consciousness, knowing you're going to school, you get this really weird, panicky thing going on in your stomach, and you actually start trembling because you're not experiencing what you're feeling, and they're panic attacks. Didn't know at the time, and my parents didn't know at the time, and my dad just told me, "You're going to go to school, I'm going to kick your ass." A tough guy. Mm-hmm. So I went to school, and I remember walking out the door and getting on the bus, and all the giggles and all the talking and all the, "Look at that, gross, yeah, gross," and I had to deal with this. And I'd come home and say, "I can't deal with this," and they said, you don't have a choice, Michael. This is your life now. You have to get used to it." Well, I started, when you're burned and you get skin grafts put on you, you start growing, right? But the skin grafts don't. So I had to start a regimen of surgeries probably every 2 to 3 months, fly down to Galveston with my mom, get surgical releases from my eyes and my neck, whatever it is, to try to regain some kind of function. My mom disintegrated right in front of our eyes. We came home about the third trip. My mother and father, I remember hearing them in the living room and yelling and screaming. And next thing I know, I fell asleep. The next morning, my dad woke us up, says, "Your mom's no longer with us." Here, my 2 sisters, my brother. "Wait, what? What do you mean? Not with us?" Well, she ran away. She can't deal with this. So that's what I had to deal with also. In a way, that was my mom was telling me, I thought to myself that I was so ugly that she couldn't love me. And I thought, oh my God, if my mom can't love me, unconditional, where am I going to find that, right? Mm-hmm. So here we go. Here we go now. I got this, and now I got my mom embarrassed of this, can't deal with it, and leaves me. And so I keep going to school. And when it came to the surgeries, I had to do it myself. Looking the way I did, feeling the way I did, I had to get on airplanes probably every 3 to 6 months, fly to Galveston all by myself, looking the way I did. But that's really the key of where I learned a lot of my skills, my social skills about accepting staring, accepting bad reactions, accepting names, ooh, icks, and try to understand that. What I learned through the process is I always thought that these people didn't like me, thought I was ugly, and it turned out that they were just human beings reacting. Right. Not mean to hurt me, but it took me a long time to learn that. Even after I did learn it, it still took a long time to try to accept unconditional across the board. Because there are some kids at school, as we know, there are bullies, and I got horribly bullied. I made the bad choice of fighting. I was always an athlete, man. I was always still a strong guy, and I didn't take any shit. And I started fighting, and I told everybody, if you if you even look at me wrong, you're going to get hurt. I thought that was gonna give me respect. It turned out that's not respect. That's just fear. You try to put fear in people to treat you right. That wasn't going to work. Finally, after a while, show up to the courts, and the judge telling me, Michael, this is the fifth, sixth time I'm telling you, this is your last chance. If I see you again, I'm going to lock you up. And you know what's going to happen after that? For the rest of your life, you're going to be deemed mentally ill and damaged and unable to be able to be out in public. Basically put me in a mental institution, the way he was trying to tell me, because I couldn't control myself. To me, I thought, a kid walks up to me and says, hey, ugly face, Frankenstein, he deserves to get beat up. Well, it turns out, I guess he doesn't. I guess he is allowed to do that, and we don't have repercussions of violence. Because violence is not, and that's why I learned at a very young age that I had to make a change. And that's really where I learned that what I said earlier about human beings, especially young kids. Young kids are they respond in so many different ways, peek around corners or whatever, and some are just verbally ooh, yuck. But I had to accept that, without defending them, because I had to realize that people were attacking me, they were responding to me. And so I started Golden Glove boxing. I thought to myself, because they teach you a lot of control. I have a Boy Scout too. So, I had a good upbringing, American grassroots upbringing. And so I started boxing, and in a very short time, within a year, I learned that I don't have to fight. If you learn how to fight, and you have that confidence, you can basically put fear in people without beating them up. Just by looking and saying, I used to tell people, I remember this friend, Clay, the big bully in school, I'd walk up to him and said, see these scars? If you screw with me, I'm going to make you look worse than this. And his jaw would drop. And so the word got around that that Michael wasn't going to take any shit, okay?
Right.
But what a blessing. My eyes came back. My eyesight came back. My hands came back. It took a lot of work to bring them hands back, I tell you. And I went back to baseball. I went to basketball, riding my bike. And you know what? I still lived this denial when I was going through school, trying to get through high school. Because I was thinking to myself, hey, let's get out of high school. Get away from all the kids, the big crowds. I played basketball, right? You see me play basketball in front of hundreds of people. And they stared at my scars on my legs, and they scared it.
I was in ninth grade when you were a senior, or a 10th grade. You graduated in 73?
Four.
I was in 10th grade when you were a senior, and I remember going to the varsity basketball games and watching you play ball. We went to the same high school.
Yeah.
You graduated with my brother.
Yeah.
And I used to listen to like a whole gym saying things that I couldn't believe people were saying. Yeah. Even when you did something right, you'd make a great shot. They would, yell "flame on" or something like that. Some sarcastic, terrible.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking, "Oh my God, what were you feeling?" And of course you were feeling it, but to me, you were the strongest person I'd ever seen.
It took up guts, I'll tell you. And, in retrospect, 35 years after starting the foundation and seeing all these other kids go through it too, it's not a kind world out there at times, and sometimes you can put yourself in a situation where you can either make or break your life. And I had to make some decisions to be smart.
I didn't realize the court thing and the that crossroads, but you were just trying to find a way to deal with it.
Yeah.
And because you were an athlete and because you were strong, this was a route, but that almost got you in a whole different pile of trouble.
Just about.
Wow.
Yeah.
So Michael, tell me about the transition that came from. How did you decide to make this adversity your life's work, helping people dealing with this adversity? Tell me about that transition into your what most would call your legacy is what you've done to the world of burned children.
Well, my father taught me that. I remember when I was recovering and stuff like this, my father was a volunteer. He was a fast pitch softball pitcher, and what he did, the Everett Fast Pitch League was dying. The age of the men were getting old and retiring and stuff, and so he felt he had to do something. So he started a junior league, and we're hundreds of kids. He put ads in the newspaper, bringing hundreds of kids into the baseball field in Everett to try to learn how, and he rebuilt that. But that was really the key to the change of my life direction. I felt that other people, just like kids wanted to be on a baseball team, right? They couldn't make the high school team, the junior league team, junior high teams. So my dad gave an avenue in which they can come into a league where not everybody was a great players because it was a junior league and stuff like this. And I thought that was so cool. You take broken boys and girls, not girls, but broken boys who have been rejected from the baseball world. They want to play. My dad gave them an avenue. And it just a couple years later, I just started thinking to myself, you know what? I like that. I like that feel. I like my dad. My dad gets home from work and all he does is just hurry up, eat, and run out the door to help these kids. Most of these kids were North End Everett kids, low income, low self-esteem, and that was such a neat thing. My dad was taking this life minutes to rebuild lives, and I thought to myself, that was so cool. And how can I do that? So after I graduated high school, I started visiting kids in Children's Hospital, burn kids, and that's really how it all began. And I sat with so many kids as a young man, and cried together and helped them through that. And I had no idea what I was doing. All I knew is I see my dad affecting people's lives, and I wanted to be that guy. I wanted to be that guy that people looked at and says, you know what, that guy cares more about the world than his own world. He knows there's need out there, and he makes sure it's taken care of. And almost like a preacher, I wanted to be that man. And so he taught me that. And so in 1988, I'll stop a little bit and back up. After I graduated high school, I went into the Air Force. And there's another bad thing that happened there. I went to boot camp, went to my schooling, and then after I got out of schooling, I went to a base in Arizona. I can't remember the base.
Davis, Moffett Davis.
It was a long time ago. I can't remember that. But I went in there I wanted to be a jet mechanic because I love jets. I just you and your planes, it's a boy thing, guy thing. So I thought I was going in to be a jet mechanic. Well, it turned out there was no openings. They made me an auto mechanic. I was replacing brakes on trucks. I was out of high school. All these skills and everything.
Wait a minute. What Air Force? What about?
All these big dreams. I'm in a shop replacing brakes on trucks, and I was not happy. And so I actually went to the Air Force because I had some other conditions that weren't finished before I became an adult. Because I was treated at Shriners Hospitals, which only treat children. So after I left, when I became an adult, I couldn't know I had surgery. So I had surgeries. So I really joined the Air Force for skill, of course, but also I knew that they'd pay for my surgeries. Well, about 3 months after my schooling, I was talking to my sergeant, and I was telling him I need some time off because I wanted to have these surgeries. And he was telling me I can't. And so I went over his head saying, look, I came to the Air Force to deal with some of these conditions that it restricts me. And he just said, no, too bad. And I was mad about that too. So here I am, unhappy with the job duty, unhappy that it allowed me to take advantage of what I have the right to have. And about a week later, I was called in. They told me to report to so-and-so, and I walk into this room. There's 4 men sitting at this table. And they started asking me questions about my surgeries and stuff. And they said, why'd you come in there for? So I said, well, I wanted to learn a jet mechanic skill, which you failed us, so it failed me. And then I won my surgeries. And they just said, well, Mr. Mathis has to inform you, but you're being a general discharge from the Air Force because we're not going to provide you with them surgeries. Very expensive. And I went, excuse me? You put me, I went through boot camp, you shaved all my hair off, demoralized me for, 17 weeks, whatever it was, in boot camp, and then went to schooling, and now you're telling me that, sorry, you're not, your value is not there.
Too expensive for us.
Yeah. And so pack your bags, report. They gave me a standby ticket. It took me like 7 days to get home from Texas, laying in airports waiting for standbys. And I was mad. I got home, and because I had a background military, Boeing hired me right away. And so that was 1979. Well, in 1988, I was on a weekend move at Boeing, and I was walking a executive desk of a journey of a jitney belt harness. Just you're supposed to walk with it. When I was talking to this guy, I felt it shift. It started shifting and dingling me. I'm this big strong guy, and this thing shifts and it starts sliding this way. Instead of just get out of the way and let it fall, I thought, and because I've done it before, I've lowered things. You learn how to lower things. And what happened was the corner of the desk hooked onto my shirt right here, and I was trying to hop it loose, and all of a sudden I actually heard a pop, and it popped my rib off. That box had it popped my rib right off. Oh. And then as I fell like this, and the corner of the box hit right there and ripped that thumb off. So it's laying there, blood pouring out with a broken rib, and I folded it down and I took me to the hospital. They stitched it all up.
Now you're out of that job.
So I'm like, okay, I'm laying at the hospital. Okay, Lord. What you got for me now? Come on, bring it on. You got what can I do now? And I went home, and my dad was telling me, "What do you want to do?" I said, "I want to keep helping kids." He goes, "Why don't you do that then?" I said, "Well, they're offering me a job back at Boeing when I get better and stuff like this, and I don't want to go back." And my dad got mad at me. He goes, "Michael, you're throwing away 14 years of seniority, retirement, everything else. You're getting good pay and good health insurance." And
right.
And I said, "Dad, you know what? I'm probably at the threshold of my life, right? Like you were when you made a decision to help them kids for that baseball. And right now, I think I'm going to put my faith in God, faith in my Lord, and say, you know what? Money's not important to me, and it never was. It never has been. And I wanted to do something good. I didn't want to just go to work and put money in Michael's pocket. It just wasn't a valuable thing for me. Mm-hmm. I had to be more and do more. I've always struggled. I didn't struggle for no reason. I just was trying to find a reason. And sure enough, I went into a Shriner attorney, because I was Shriners Hospitals. I had met an attorney there through the process. He helped me file my papers and do it right, got me a board, taught me how to do the board, and I started the Burn Children Recovery Foundation in 1989. And so it was tough. The first year we raised $5,000, and I took an oath of poverty, basically, like a preacher. Mm-hmm. I was living on oatmeal and things, I pick berries. You can get by. I was a hunter. Mm-hmm. I go shoot my meat, my ducks, and so I kind of just live in a little kind of a poverty world, waiting for this foundation to hopefully take off. But everybody kept telling me is Michael, why are you fighting so hard for this? There's no problem out in public. We don't see a lot of burn survivors in public. I said, well, that's what the problem is.
That's the problem.
You know, don't you guys understand that? I mean, if there's 280,000 children burned every year, and a total of over 2 million people burned every year. So where are they at? Well, the reason they're not here is because the way I was treated when I went to school, to public, and everything else is people can't deal with it. You know, burn survivors, they get this kind of ridicule and pick on, bullying. They just go. Actually, Social Security has made it real easy for us to give up, didn't they? You know, you just go wham, wham, me, and they'll just tell you, here's your housing, here's your food stamps, and here's your money. And that wasn't for me. You know, I was not going to do that, and I didn't think it was fair to any other kids who'd have to do that either. So I was really strong-willed. I didn't want a life to be wasted just because they didn't have an avenue in which to educate themselves. That people are doing this to your scars, reacting to your scars because they're human beings, not because they're assholes. And I hate to swear because I'm not a swearer, but that's just the plain truth.
Right.
You either get it or you don't. You know, either you're going to go out there and when someone's very inappropriate, you just smile at them and walk away. Or when they're staring at you, just smile and walk away. Why do you make it your problem when it's really society's problem? And so I had a strong feeling that in order to prepare other burn survivors, I had to be out here, and I had to help these other burn survivors to go to school and possibly help others to, you know, even if you're not burned as a child, you have some problems. A lot of kids have problems, insecurities, and they don't think they're cute or handsome or whatever. I had to be out there. I just felt like I had to be out there to prepare for the kids and the people that were burned after me.
You told me once in a discussion we had, Michael, that it's almost a very, very common thing, of course, among burned people that they become shut-ins.
Recluse.
They are so afraid to go out and face the inevitable rejection that they become shut-ins in their own world, almost create a prison that they live in.
Horrible.
And as a result, suicide among this group of people is one of the highest categories of suicide in the country.
It is. It really is.
Yeah.
When you allow yourself to be brought down by the system and allow yourself to live a meaningless existence and pay you to do that, you know, it makes it easy to quit. You know, but, you know, you just have to find a way to make yourself a better person, to make yourself more valuable, other than the visual. And so I thought to myself, you know, I brush my teeth, I get my own, I wear nice clothes, I care about myself, I care about people. That's where you start. You know, you just got to start. And one of the main things you got to accept that when you walk out that door, you can have certain level of anxieties. You know, I still do. I'm 60 years later, and I don't think my anxieties are related to people staring or responding. It's just a post-traumatic that I can't control anymore. It's always been there. It's just that it's not comfortable, especially in a forum where there's like when I went to Las Vegas with your group, with your core group.
Yes.
I relish sharing my story because I think it helps people. But I still have to live in a level of anxiety with that. Right. And it's something that's always there and always will be. It's like anything else. You get a major car accident, you're going to have post-traumatic, you know, whatever traumatic thing you go to, there's going to be lasting effects from that. And so that's just something you had to accept. And I really don't have really bad days anymore. I've had extreme people react to me, but I smile and say, you know, if you just stop and learn and get to know me, you wouldn't do that to me.
Right.
You know? Right.
And
so the hardest thing that the kids that we help deal with is staring. You know, and human beings are just when human beings, their eyes see something, it takes a while, sometimes even a long time, for some people to process that. And when they're doing that, they're staring, their eyes are bulging, but they don't know they're trying, that your feelings are being hurt. They don't know that they're making you feel uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. It's just a human response. But you try to teach a kid that, you know.
Right.
You know, it's really a difficult thing, Greg.
Really difficult.
And for the missing kids, and let's go back to the suicide. This is one of the main reasons I retired recently, is because we've had a lot of kids that have been real close to me kill themselves in the last 5, 6, 10 years. It's always been going on, but it's been hard for me. Is some of these kids, I wouldn't think they would have done that, because they had come back to camp as counselors, and these powerful entities like me. They had this peer where people, when they walk into the camp, they run to them. And they go take their lives because of the post-traumatic and the panic attacks. They can't deal with it anymore. And just slowly, I used to get phone calls. I'd get phone calls and I'd see a name, and I'd just be empowered by, oh, good, I'm going to help him through this or whatever. Well, about a couple of years ago, 3 or 4 years ago, when some of the closest friends were killing themselves, things started changing.
Right.
The phone numbers became scary. I wouldn't say scary, but fearful. Mm-hmm. That, you know, almost like I want to run away, because we've helped 135,000 families in 35 years. That's a lot of kids to feel responsible for, and it's really not fair for me to put that kind of burden on myself, because I'm only one person, right? I can't save them all. That's one thing I learned I had to learn, is you can't save them all. And so that's the most difficult thing.
I would imagine that these triggers, this post-traumatic reality, that throughout life you may go through chapters of thinking, okay, I think I've got this licked. I think I've got this. I've seen this before, I've seen that before, but I could see where something could happen, where you're in a relationship or something, and you think it's all going well, and you think that they love you for who you are, and you're connecting, and then it stops for some reason. And your conclusion is, well, it stopped because of the way I look. And that's it. You don't think twice.
Yeah,
you just can't handle it, and that's that. And I could just almost feel how it's ever present. The bottom line is, because it's visual, and you're so aware of how visual it is, you and everyone around you, it's an issue that can't be hidden.
Yes.
Whereas the reality, Michael, intellectually, we've talked about this, that everyone has a battle going on that nobody knows about. But the key is that nobody knows about it. You can hide it. You can play the game. You can go through life having a real issue, but nobody else knows about it. Okay, at least it's contained. Yours is not contained.
It's not containable.
You can't contain it.
No, it's not containable.
Unless you shut yourself in, put a hood over your head, and nobody ever sees you, which then you have no life.
No.
So it's to have a life, the issue gets exposed to the world. And that courage, that confidence, I'm just trying to get my hands around it, that it's almost like asking somebody, if your worst nightmare, the thing you struggle most with, was exposed for all to see,
Wow.
Now how do you feel about yourself? Now how do you function? Now what do you do? Because it changes everything. And see, you are in a category that it is so visual that the thing you struggle with the most is right here for everybody to see. And just by the other people's reaction, it's difficult to can handle. Hell, I mean, it's difficult for people that don't even know what to do with it. They don't have this, but they don't know what to do with it.
Right.
Here you are with this, like, I get it. Tell me tell me. It's really tough on this end too.
It is.
But it's exposed. So I don't know. To me, it's calling on a different level of self-love, a different level of faith,
Consciousness.
consciousness, awareness, a whole different level of empathy on your part, almost forgiving them because they don't know what they're doing.
You
Didn't
bet.
Christ say that once?
That's right. That's
Right?
that's how far you got to go.
Wow.
Yeah, and that's you hit it right on the spot. That's really what the Burn Children Recovery Foundation is all about, and why it's so needed. Because one life, I mean, you got children. Everybody has valuable people in their lives.
Yeah.
And every person has a right to live a full and productive life. And whether they have problems or not, they still have the right. Mm-hmm. And this is what the foundation, at least the foundation at least provides education and mentorship to give them a chance. Mm-hmm. Just give them a chance to live the day-to-day problems. And just like you just said, it's really a powerful thing to walk out that door knowing you're going to get responses, and you don't respond at all. But it's a hard thing to achieve. I tell you, it really is. And I think the reason why it was easy, why I achieved it, is because I achieved so much. Mm-hmm. So I built great pride in that learning, in that education, in that teachings that I gave to the kids. Mm-hmm. And that's so I am at that point where I don't feel shame. I don't feel humiliated. But try to tell the children how to do that is you have to lead by your example in life. And that's why camp was so important, And the foundations, a lot of people think the foundation's about a camp, and camp's an important thing for burn survivors to come together and learn how to deal with life and the problems we talked about. But really the key to the foundation is the support of these families when they're home. Right. That's the key, because them kids have to get up every morning and go and deal with that. And we buy school clothes for them. Mm-hmm. We pay for hobby costs, activities, anything that gets them outside that house to build some self-esteem, some skills. They'll give them a base foundation of belief in yourself. Right. And that's what's so important. When burn survivors when people see burn survivors in public, what I wish they'd see is a person of strength, not as a weakness. So there's a lot of people look at burn survivors and they're kind of they don't want to look at you, and they kind of they're just insecure. But people ask me a lot, what can I do when I see a burn kid or a burn person? Just walk up to them and say hi. I know burn people in my life, and I'm really proud. Give them some information about how you can build their lives. Saying I'm really honored and really proud to see you're out here dealing with this, because I have a friend that told me all about it. It's not easy, and so I think the key is helping kids. But you know what? The key is the people that come in to help the kids. Right. These are the lessons. We're not just here for the lessons for the kids and the families. We're here for the lessons of the people that come into the program, and they walk away. Like you said, many people don't know what damaged people have, and you can't see it. You bring into a situation where they're empowered and walk away and they get to go to their homes and say, you know what, I was around a bunch of kids without fingers, without faces. And it was bothersome in the beginning, but you know what? After a little while, we started looking in their eyes, and it all kind of went away. This is the kind of comments I've heard all my career, is that after we get to know you, Michael, we don't see your scars. We don't. All we see is your eyes, and we have a feeling for you more than. But that tells me that they evolved, not me. Right. That they evolved. So that's the power of the whole thing, is that they get out there. I tell the kids, get out there. You'll get a bad reaction, but trust me, that bad reaction person will go home. They'll lay their head on a pillow that night, and they'll say, why did I do that? Right. And I'm going to do a better person. Yeah. So that's why I tell them that stop thinking it's all about you, because your actions out there can change your little world too. So it's a powerful thing.
My there are these hats here on the table. I am going through my dad's things. As you know, my dad passed away recently, and
Love that.
Dad, Mom had the blessing of working at the camp many years and just being there with kids. And one of the best pictures I've seen of my dad is you and my dad with a couple of these burned kids, and I think that one of the things that came from me and just watching my dad and my mom in drawing to this situation is that their own adversity in life gave them a heart for anyone that was going through adverse situations.
So true.
And isn't that the benefit of adversity as a whole, is that it makes you more empathetic to the reality. And although their adversity was not visual, it wasn't anything anybody could see from the outside, they felt it deeply. They survived it as you have, and they didn't categorize their adversity differently than yours, and they understood this is something that was helping those who really went through something really tough. But I would, to your point, I would tell you that the weeks following that camp, probably less of them made impact on kids than the kids made impact on them. They were the ones that were changing as a result. They were growing. They were better human beings for being around the courage of these kids.
Yes.
And isn't that really? It's almost a. If you think about it, putting yourself in the middle. You said it earlier. This isn't all about you. That when you put yourself in the middle of those with adversity, you're the one that's benefiting.
It does. So true.
Yeah.
But one of the last things I always say at camp when people come, tell people what you love, what you're passionate about. Go home and tell people about you shook the hands of a kid without fingers. Go tell your friends that you shook the hands of a kid who didn't have a face, didn't have any hair, missing legs, because that's how bad burns can be. It can amputations and everything.
Right.
And a lot of people say, I don't want to go around bragging about it. This is not bragging.
Yeah.
This is preparing the world, not for the burn kids, but let the people know that they need to do something. They need to do something that's going to make an impact, not just go to work and help pay your bills. You're put on this earth for a reason, and that's to help others. And until you learn that, love is the most powerful thing in the world, as you agree, we'll probably agree at that.
Absolutely.
And it's more powerful than anything I've ever seen in my life. So if you can just love people and not hate them. Yeah. And when you see people hating, do something about it. Make a change. Just do something in your life and tell your grandkids that this is important to me. Tell your kids and your uncle, your aunt, everybody. Scream it to the mountaintops that there's something out here that's important, and you got to do something about it.
Got to do something about it. My dad told me a story, Michael, of you and he getting together. It wasn't at the camp. It was just somewhere for coffee, and I think he even told me it was like the Buzz Inn or some kind of busy diner type place, and a young kid, I mean like 3 or 4 years old, saw you, and sometimes young kids are very bold, and he was, as the story goes in my mind, the kid said, looked at you and said, well, what happened? And my dad said that you got down on one knee. You said, well, I got burned, with fire. I got burned, and as a result, this is what's happened. And something in you could tell that the kid was curious, and you took the kid's hand and you said, "See, do you see how it feels? Do you see that it's a little different than yours? Now feel yours. Feel this. Yeah, if this is what happens when you get burned."
I've done that all my life. Yeah.
And it was like he understood. Dad said he looked at this little kid and he thought to himself, if adults could be this non-judgmental and just forthcoming with their bewilderment, their curiosity,
confusion.
it could all be discussed right then and there, and we're all good, and we give each other a hug and go on with our day.
Yeah, we move on.
Right.
Lessons learned.
Yeah. And I could tell he was very, very moved by that. But I've thought about that in so many capacities of just a sort of a humble, do you mind if we talk about this? The reception would be not only great for me, but it would be so healthy for the person on the other end. In this case, you, right?
Yeah.
To just discuss it. Which really, the bigger heading that I'm going is, if we just had transparency and talked about the difficulties of life without pretense, wouldn't that be just a whole different playing field?
What a great skill, huh?
Wouldn't that be amazing?
Imagine the world had that skill.
What a concept,
And you teach that in your lessons.
Well,
too.
I'll tell you, but I don't know how to say it. I'm no good at it in comparison because it's not forced upon me. It's forced upon you to wish for a thing.
Yeah.
It's ever present. I wish we could just do it this way. And yet you're the one that needs that kind of cooperation. And I guess I'm saying that part of what this foundation has done, as you said, it's not just helping the kids know how to deal with this going from their standpoint, but it's taught me a lot in hearing you speak many times about how you would want the public to, how does the public handle something like this, or somebody with an obvious physical defect or a traumatic situation obviously has happened, and you would say, approach them with grace and let's just talk about it.
You bet.
And then we talk about it, and then we're good, and we stay in touch. And there's, we're all human beings.
Yeah.
I don't know. It to me, this is it's the calling that you've committed your life to. It's the legacy that you've left. This summer, I was there when you retired. You had a retirement party, and there was a handoff to take this foundation from here going forward. Tell me, in your retirement, let's start there. If you were to give somebody just a couple bullet points of what you want to be known for, your legacy, I think you've achieved all of them, but I want to hear what your hope was, and because legacy is not something you just think about after the fact. It's something you earn day in and day out, and you create a legacy. Tell me about the intentionality of what you've now done.
Well, you hit a word here a second ago, hope, because we all need hope. Not just, I don't care how much money you have, what your situation in life is. There's going to be times in which you need hope, and I think my legacy is we give hope to the ones that don't have it. Because without hope, they have nothing, really. Dignity. Dignity. Humble. Learn to be humble. Diversity could be a hard thing to live with, but being humble with that diversity makes it a lot easier, I'll tell you, because when people are inappropriate and you humble up and don't feel humiliated, you got it. You got it down. But when you feel the humility still, there's still something going on there that you're probably humiliated yourself a little bit still. And I don't know if that ever goes away. You know, there's the key to the most important key I hear from the kids as they grow up through life is, I don't want to look burned. You know, they just can't get by that. But my legacy has nothing to do with my burns, really. It was the tool that helped me find the dignity I have. But I just feel that I was put here, not just for burns children. I was put here to provide people with dignity, no matter what kind of life they have, what kind of money they make, how they live. Dignity is built and based inside yourself. You can look in the mirror all you want and just decide, is that who I am? That's your choice, right? If you're not happy with the way you look, stop thinking about the way you look. Does it really matter? Does it really matter the way you look if you're kind and gentle and it's a soft soul? Does it really matter what people see? It really doesn't.
That statement, Michael, in the face of what we see so much of out there is imagery. It's Facebook. It's you know, it's all based on a picture,
visual,
of what people think success and achievement and what it should look like. Well, I'll tell you something. I'll honestly just flat out tell you that the three people that I think that I personally know that have made the greatest impact in life are you, Tim Shaw, and Roger Belair. And I'm telling you, if you put a montage picture together, it's completely the opposite of what anybody would say, oh, this is the picture of success.
Interesting, yes. That's
you know,
great.
Tim has ALS and he's in a wheelchair and he can barely talk right now. It's amazing he's alive, right? You're badly burned, you know? And Roger has given up a CEO Forbes 400 world to bring sport into maximum security prisons. Nobody even knows who he is anymore, but he's in a prison right now out of choice to bring a game inside of maximum security prisons. You know, it's what he's dedicated his life to. It's the most meaningful thing he's done.
Wow.
This is a guy that was on the cover of Fortune magazine. No, he shifted all that. Now this is what he does and what he wants to be known for.
So important.
And he gets no recognition, no accolades, no anything. He's just in there helping people who are on death row learn a sport and feel better about themselves until the day they get put to death. Yeah. Wow. Who does this? You know, to me, these are the heroes of legacy. Selflessness. It's not all about you. You said that earlier. It's just like, so I to me, the story of your life and your bride's life, Kathleen's life, is just is a life that challenges everybody to the core, which is the ending consider of this podcast is consider legacy. Consider what is it that you're going to do that at the end of it will have made your life matter and made a difference to other people.
Yes.
And wow, you brought a poster of the last Phoenix camp in 2022, and you look at all of these kids coming in from all over the country, and the photographs of them together and them learning the skills of how to overcome. What a fantastic poster to put in your den for the rest of your life and go, look at that.
Yeah.
Look at the faces of our work.
Yeah.
Amazing.
As soon as you walk in the door of our house, we have all the 22 camps all on the wall. When you walk up, all of them, all the wonderful faces and all the lives you've affected, and all the lives of, not the burn survivor lives, all the volunteers, the counselors, the sponsors, the donors. They're all part of the equation of success.
Yeah.
We can't do that. We can't do what we do without money.
Yeah.
We can't do what we do without volunteers. We can't do what we do without people talking about us.
Right.
I mean, I want people to say, talk about burn kids. I want people to talk about us, how hard. I want people to say it was hard. Mm-hmm. It was hard. Because that's what's going on with the public is it's hard. It's hard to walk up on a child or a person who's missing ears and you don't want to humiliate people. You don't know if they're even able to do that. Mm-hmm. And so I think it's, if I can take anything away from what I've done is challenge yourself.
Right. Right.
Walk up to these people and acknowledge them.
Right.
Recently I met a guy who wouldn't come to camp. He was a friend of mine 10 years ago, and we do good things together, fishing and stuff like this. But he didn't want to come to camp. He said, I can't do it. And I show him pictures of the kids. They just can't do it. And there's just some point in the world where you're going to find people that just are so broken themselves, they can't deal with this. So it's, but just recently, in fact, this Camp 22, he came to that one, and it changed him. Yeah. It changed him so much. He got on his bike and left his home. He was not married, but left his home and went on a 6-month tour around the nation because he was lost. He was all messed up because he couldn't figure out why he was so weirded out by children who had scars. He just couldn't. And now he's one of my most cherished friends. And the reason I mention that is not because of him, but people can make a difference in people's lives.
Right.
If they just take away their own inabilities and fears. Mm-hmm. Because fear is a part of the hardest thing to deal with. Is fear to walk out the door as a burn survivor, fear to walk up to a burn survivor and say hi, and it's all
toughest
about
part is that
fear.
That fear's threshold.
Yeah,
get over that.
Yeah, toughen up.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Well, Michael, I at one of my talented young entrepreneurs that I met in the world of real estate that I got a chance to hopefully share some ideas about real estate with them. That was the context that I met them. I encouraged him to come to the All-Star in Las Vegas to share a story of his adversity, and which happens to be very, very similar to yours of being burned at a young age.
Oh.
And at that, in that context, I introduced the two of you.
Taylor.
And so Taylor and you met years ago now, back at the All-Star Days of Las Vegas, and developed a friendship. And at least at this moment, he's taken the reins. You've groomed him to take the reins, to take the Burn Children's Recovery Foundation forward into the future. Taylor's, in his 30s and has a great young family, but because he knows this world and has a huge heart for this world as well, you guys have become friends, and he's taking this going forward. So I'm really excited for Taylor to take what you've given your life to, and to keep it moving forward to help burn children. And so this foundation stays alive. They're going to need people to come alongside and help and push it forward. Yeah. So I'm really excited that it's continuing. And that handoff happened just this summer.
I did.
As you retired and Taylor's taking it from here as the director, and I really think it's a seat on the bus that you have to have the personal experience and empathy for to run.
You bet.
And you have all these years, and now it's his turn to take his pain and turn it into this ongoing, amazing cause. So
we're looking forward to I remember meeting Taylor right there, walking through my lunch run, and he had showed up late because his plane broke down, I think it was, or something like this.
Yes.
And I just walked by. I didn't really notice he was burned, and until I looked at his hands.
Yes.
I said, "You're a burn survivor." He looked at me and goes, he actually did that.
Yeah.
A burn survivor did that.
Yeah.
He goes, "I'm sorry I did that," but he goes, "I wasn't shocked by you. I just was happy to see you."
Right. Yeah.
Because I guess you had talked to him about it.
I have. Yeah.
But what we see at Taylor's a smart guy. He's really a smart guy. He has a lot of skills that I don't have. I didn't have marketing skills. I've never been a corporate guy. Never liked putting the ties on and walking and trying to swoo the big corporate guys and have them throw me $100 and say, good deal. And
right.
To me, the building of the foundation had to be built on not corporate. It had to be built on normal, ordinary, day-to-day people who go to work every day, earn their money, and come to these fundraisers and give their $100 or maybe $10 or whatever. And that's really, I thought, was the most important way to build a charity, was to build it on the lives of people who struggle. There's a lot of companies out there that support muscular dystrophy and everything else. It's billions and millions and millions and millions of dollars, but it's all corporate, cold, calculating. There's no surprises. It's all just numbers and agreements, and I don't feel comfortable with that. And now I know Taylor does, so I'm really excited about that.
Right. Well, and this is where the growth is changing it up sometimes.
It has to.
It's seeing how it goes, and the exciting thing for everybody who's been a part of this and seen it and supported it and things is that it's ongoing.
It's going,
and it's the grassroots of what it stands for, what it's trying to do, stays intact. And so with technology and group fundraising and all of the various platforms and things that exist today, I'm really excited to see what might happen and can the footprint, the impact increase. And so you've started an amazing thing, Michael, and I'm just I feel blessed to at least see this transition happening and know the parties involved, because it's going to be awesome to just see it continue.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm 69 years old, and people at my age should be gearing down. But even though I'm not, I'm the chairman of the board, so it's a different kind of gear. But I'm really geared up with him too, because awesome. We're going to do some big things.
It's fantastic. Well, the challenge once again is the challenge of legacy. That's the consider legacy. Consider the commitment of legacy. A day in and day out commitment towards really making an impact. That's the challenge you deliver to all of us. And I just so appreciate you being with me here on this podcast. I would encourage everybody to look up and follow the Burn Children's Recovery Foundation. It's ongoing, it's moving, it's growing. And Michael, thanks again for being here. And for all of you who are taking the time to listen to this podcast, I so appreciate it. I hope to see you on the next one. God bless you.
Thanks, Greg.
Thanks, buddy.